Imagine you're at the gym and some strangers working out in close proximity look at you and nod. What do? You subtly acknowledge, cut off the gaze, and go back to your workout, right? You do not stare down their soul or you completely ignore their existence. Neither of the two extremes. This particular behavior, or should I say performance, is called civil inattention, one of the many concepts given by Erving Goffman. The most famous of which is Dramaturgy, based on the Shakespearean line, "All of the world's a stage, and all men and women are players." Welcome to Think Sociology. I am Sai Bhargav, and this video is about Erving Goffman and all of the important sociological concepts given by him. And as I always say, if you're preparing for UGC net set or looking for value addition for your UPSC answers, or generally looking for a broader overview of the society with a sociological lens, then this is the video for you. With that, let's get started with Erving Goffman. Erving Goffman is a Canadian sociologist, and he is of the symbolic interactionism school. He is not the father of symbolic interactionism. Prior to this, there are pioneers like G.H. Mead and Herbert Blumer, but he is one of the major contributors. And I'd say the most interesting concepts of symbolic interactionisms was given by Erving Goffman. Let's begin with dramaturgy. So this concept is given in his book, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life, in the year 1959. This considers social world as a metaphor for theater. So all of us are considered actors performing in front of an audience using different stages. The front stage is where we act in order to put up a performance. For instance, if you are a student, you appear more attentive in the class. So that is the front stage that you're putting up. Or if you're attending a job interview, or if you're attending a meeting, you appear more confident, right? So these are the appearances or the mannerisms that you put up in the front stage. The backstage is where you relax, or you're just venting out your frustrations. Say you're a chef who's just got a feedback from the table. You go back to the kitchen and you vent all your frustrations, right? That is the backstage. Off stage is when you're not really performing in the front stage, but it is still not you're still not completely cut off from the role. So let's say if a class teacher has finished the class and is having a one-on-one conversation with a student, so that is the off stage, right? Where she's not exactly playing the role of a teacher, but still having a word, maintaining that particular role, right? So with these stages, we perform certain role in order to be seen by others, and we constantly improve our public image. For this, we employ something called as impression management, Goffman says. We do this to maintain a desired impression of us among others, and we employ certain techniques for this, like loyalty, discipline, and circumspection. Loyalty, to be trusted by others, discipline, and then circumspection is to minimize the risks by preparing for expected problems, where we understand some things can go wrong and we prepare how to counter them when they arise. Closely related to dramaturgy is face and face work. Face is nothing but positive social value that we claim for ourselves. We put in a lot of efforts to maintain our own face, or we also sometimes save someone else's face. Consider all these PR agencies that Bollywood employs, creating scenarios where they perform charity outside the gym or at the airport. All the PR videos that you see are nothing but face work, right? So this employs certain strategies like avoidance strategies, corrective and aggressive strategies. Avoidance strategies, let's say you're a stand-up comedian and you do not really want to get into controversy, so you avoid certain topics like religion or politics. Or corrective strategies is when you've done something wrong and you seek apology. So that is corrective strategy. You maintain your face work by asking for forgiveness. And then aggressive strategy is when you intentionally embarrass others. That could also be to save your own face, right? So with this, we finished the dramaturgy part. Let's move on to stigma. This is another important and interesting concept. Stigma is discussed in the book Note on the Management of Spoiled Identity, published in the year 1963. Goffman says stigma is a behavioral mark that discredits a person's identity. A person transitions from discreditable to discredited when there is a lack of information management. For instance, as long as the identity is conspicuous, or let's say if a person who is infected with HIV or having an epilepsy condition, if he cannot manage his information, for instance, I'm reminded of The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky, where he had this epileptic condition, but if that information is not managed, then that becomes a stigma, right? The discredited ones are those who have visible scars or are disabled, so they have a visible identity. This is nothing but a source of stigma. Goffman groups people into 3 different categories. The normals are those who do not have stigma. They are full members of the society, and so they are insensitive of the stigmatized. So the normal ones do not understand the problems or the worldview of the stigmatized. The stigmatized, on the other hand, are viewed as less. They manage their spoiled identity. They are aware of their identity and how it is spoiled, and they try to manage it using various methods. Now, a very interesting category here is the wise category. So these do not possess stigma, but they are supporters of stigmatized. So you might have seen the visuals of some saints who are not really, do not appear to be groomed well, but still are considered very high by the individuals around them, right? Because they are considered as honorary normals, and they do not possess stigma because that is how they are categorized, right? They support the stigmatized. So these are the 3 different categories of the groups within the stigmatized. Okay, the types of stigma here, Goffman talks about 3 different types. One is the physical type, where you can see the disability visibly, and then there is character stigma, where a person who is alcoholic or homophobic or unemployed is considered stigmatized. Then there is tribal stigma, where a person of certain race or religion or nationality is considered as stigmatized. So these are the various types of stigma. With that, we can move on to the next concept of total institutions. All right, if you have come across this book called Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, so he talks about how he underwent the whole ordeal in the Nazi concentration camps, and he has survived to tell the tale. So that can be considered, that is the extreme example of a total institution. But in general, all the jails and prisons or asylums are all, more or less a part of the total institutions, right? So this is where a person entering will lose his identity through a concept called mortification of self. So your previous identity is stripped away and your status is degraded. No matter you're a doctor or a politician, once you enter the jail, all of your status, previous status, theoretically at least, is degraded. And then you lose autonomy. You have to listen to the rules of the total institution. And then you're re-socialized. You will be given a new role within the institutional setting, where you are given an in charge of the kitchen or some other role, right? So this is a closed social system where a single authority controls all aspects of life. So all the institutions like jails, prisons, and mental asylums all come under social institutions, and this is also studied by Erving Goffman. After this, we covered the face work. Now, frame analysis is a very interesting concept. Frame analysis is nothing but the mental structures that we use to interpret everyday social realities. So these are nothing but the lenses that we use to look at the same activity with a different perspective, right? So here keying comes as an important concept that he used to call how we look at the same activity, same unchanging activity, when viewed at with different frames, it changes the complete perspective. For instance, we have practice matches and the real matches, right? Before the World Cup, there were a lot of practice matches held. But in that, whatever scores are, scored by the players are not taken into account. They do not impact their averages or score or strike rates, because that is a practice match. But essentially, they are doing the same thing. Like, they use the same techniques, they hit fours and sixes, but the key is different, right? The frame is different. So that is the difference between contests and rehearsals. Or a more recent example, which I can think of, is the fake sangeets that we are seeing as a rising trend these days. So people just want to experience the vibe of a sangeet, but not really participate in a real marriage. So they use this fake sangeet concept. So essentially, we are using the same activity, but the frame of reference is different. Okay, here we see that sometimes the conflicting frameworks will lead to disputes. So maybe people just fight out of as a way to express enjoyment or entertainment, but when you view it without knowing the context, you get scared. Or I've seen a recent post where a man posted a video how his mother was beating him for not showing up for house for days. Some people in the comments have called it toxic, but how the way he has captioned and posted it, he seemed to have considered that as a sweet act of love. So the frame here is different, although the activity is same, right? Now there is also expressive order. Here, expressive order is nothing but an invisible frame of proper conduct. So in order to maintain that particular social norms or moral codes, we need to have two different rituals. One is deference, another is demeanor. Deference is how we convey respect or regard for others, right? Demeanor is how individuals carry themselves, right? So we use deference and we use demeanor in order to as a means of rituals that we carry out for this expressive order, right? And once we break this particular expressive order, we can face social awkwardness, or we are prone to embarrassment, or we can even be sanctioned by shaming, right? So it is always important that we convey respect for others, and we should carry ourselves in a way that is respectful in the society. So this is an invisible framework. Be kind to your neighbor. All of the moral codes are nothing but sociologically studied, when looked at, are nothing but expressive order in the frame analysis. So these are moral codes and social norms, invisible for a proper conduct. And after the frame analysis, let's move on to the interaction order. This is nothing but localized situational social structure, which will guide our behavior and meaning during face-to-face encounters. To understand this, let's say you're in a lift. There is an unsaid rule that you just look at the wall or the door, but you do not engage in a direct eye contact with the person next to you, because that guides the interaction, and you are mutually influencing one another, and this is carried out by this invisible rule called interaction order. Then Goffman talks about something called role distancing. Okay, this is how you communicate that you're not really interested in the job that you're doing. For instance, there is an unenthusiastic waiter. He or she will convey with his or her demeanor, that they are not really interested in the job. And then you call the manager. right? So this is role distancing. That is a way to actually assert a degree of autonomy that you are above the job that you perform. And finally, we have civil inattention, the very concept with which we have started today's discussion, where strangers in close proximity movements, they just subtly acknowledge, and then out of mutual respect for personal boundaries, they cut off the gaze and they avoid the extremes, right? These are all of the concepts that are associated with Erving Goffman. Even if you're not into the details, if you just understand the ones highlighted in orange: dramaturgy, stigma, total institutions, face work, frame analysis, interaction order, role distancing, and civil inattention. This will do the job for your UGC net exam. And beyond that, there is also the important books that he has contributed to, along with the years, of which the first book is important, 1955 on face work, 1959 on presentation of self in everyday life is also important. And asylums, we have seen how total institutions is given in detail by Goffman. And role distancing concept we have just seen, so this is also important. And then there is Stigma, 1963, very important book and a repeatedly asked question. 1967, Ritual Interaction. Frame Analysis, 1974, Frame Analysis. This is a very important book. An essay on the organization of self-expression. Right, so these are the important books. So someone has asked in the previous video regarding this particular images. So what I will do is I'll upload them on a Telegram channel, and I'll provide the link to it in the description, so you can get the image from there. And this will be the most comprehensive yet easiest way to understand and revise, especially when you have very less time before the exam. So with that, we are done with Erving Goffman. I hope this is useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.